What's going on, guys? Nick Foy here from under30wealth.com, which is my real estate investing blog where I share lots of helpful articles and tips on how you can get started buying your first investment property. So if you want to check it out, you can learn more there. I also have a website, asknickfoy.com, which you'll hear me mention in lots of my other videos on my channel. So if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I bring daily videos related to building passive income online through e-commerce stores, selling things online, as well as real estate investing by buying rental properties or fixing and flipping houses. So I got started investing in real estate at age 20. I've already done a couple deals in my first few years that have had six-figure profits in them, and I've been able to scale up my net worth to the point where now I've got a big cash supply, and I'm actually in the process of qualifying for bank financing. So things are going to start snowballing a lot quicker because now I can buy deals that are more expensive using the bank's money. So this deal we're going to be talking about today, I've actually got an investment partner who's going to be partnering it with me, and we're going to be contributing cash together as well as getting bank financing for it. So it's roughly a $250,000 house. Here's the outside look if you take a look at the photo there. So what we're going to think about doing with the general contractor, we went out and saw this property, and then we went back and ran the numbers. So I'm going to be getting into the numbers shortly in our spreadsheet here. But basically, it's going to need a lot of work on the exterior. On the front, you can see it's got brick, but the rest of the house is all siding. It's like a wood siding, so the wood's actually rotting, and the selling agent was worried that it's not going to pass appraisal for conventional financing. So in other words, if we tried to get a loan with a bank, he doesn't think the appraiser for the bank would allow this property to be sold via a loan. So he's only looking for cash buyers, and this was out of our range to try to buy as a cash investment. So we ended up having to walk away from the deal, just to kind of give you a long story short of what happened with this one. But I'm going to go ahead and show you why it would have worked out as a flip. We even made an offer and we got turned down. But this would have been one of those deals where we would have made some money flipping it. So let's go ahead and start looking at some of the other photos. So when you get inside, this house was completely, ancient is what I would say, to be nice. It's an older person's home. I would say the person living in it, I believe they were in like their 70s. Unfortunately, I think one of the spouses probably passed away, and the other person is left living in this home by themselves. And it's about that time where they're trying to sell it to either downsize or potentially move into a retirement living community. So they haven't done any updates since they built the house. They've lived in it all 40 years that they owned it and built it. So clearly it needs lots of updating. The carpet, you're going to notice, is outdated. The walls all have wallpaper. It's even got the old kind of person smell and furniture to it. So it's one of those properties when we walk in analyzing it as investors, that we think it's going to have to totally be gutted. All this wood paneling is going to have to be taken off the walls, and we're just going to re-drywall the whole place, rip out all the carpet, put down new laminate or wood flooring, and then paint all the walls like a lighter color, like a light gray, a light tan, with white trim. So it's going to need all new trim, or at least paint the existing trim. So this is the living room when you come in the front door here, and it just has that old outdated look to it, so it's easily a flip candidate. When you get into the kitchen, the cupboards weren't too bad. They didn't have those old school handles on them. There's a lot of kitchen cabinets I've been looking at lately that they just look outdated, but these ones don't look too outdated. But you could get a new stainless steel fridge, throw on some new granite countertops, and we might as well get new cabinets as well, unless we think we could repurpose the existing cabinets. And then of course all the wallpaper's got to go, and then we do some kind of backsplash. It looks like it had like a tile right now back here, between where the two sets of cabinets have a break. You can see the wall back there was backsplashed with some kind of tile, and then this was like a carpet floor. So again, we'd have to put in like a hardwood or a laminate or even like a tiled flooring for the kitchen. So here's just another view of it. So it wasn't too bad. We'd get all new stainless steel stove, microwave, fridge, so new appliances, trying to completely update this house to try to get it up to where we could sell it at a higher comp. So the dining room, again, dingy, ugly wallpaper. I hate removing wallpaper, so we'd probably just drywall over it and get a new fan, and then, clean up this space, get these things out of here so that it's open, put in nice new hardwood flooring. And then they've got kind of a secondary dining room where they've got their dining room table. This is like a wallpaper mural there, so all that would go. We'd get, paint the window trim white, paint these walls like a lighter color, and then I think the windows were okay to keep. So now when you go upstairs here to the right, it's kind of like a little half step, so kind of like a little bungalow house where you're going up a half story. And there were like 3 bedrooms on that floor, and then there's another little half step that goes up another half story to a 4th bedroom. So just quickly looking through these photos again, you're going to notice wallpaper, old carpet, so all that's got to be ripped out, re-drywalled, repainted, new trim, or at least take the existing trim off, paint it white, pop it back on. Probably should get some new doors. The doors were kind of old looking as well. So it's going to need like a complete rehab is kind of what I'm getting at here, just because of how outdated this house was. This was all the materials they used back when they built it, and it hasn't been updated in the last 40 years. And then we've got the garage, which had pretty good space to it. This is actually the lower level. This is the basement of the house, so we could finish it off. They've already got the wood 2x4s, going along the wall, the brick wall. So all you'd have to do is, hang some drywall on these studs, and you could finish the ceiling by hanging drywall on these beams up here. And then they've got their ductwork, and there's actually a little mini bar down here in the basement. We could, put some nicer countertop on, maybe open this up a little bit and turn it into kind of like a little man cave where you've got a couch, TV down here, finish the flooring, put in some kind of bar there with a fridge and, drinks, maybe a kitchen sink. Could put a little microwave down here as well to fix yourself some food. So this would be a pretty cool little basement. By finishing it off too, we would add square footage to the property, so that could help its value go up as well. Alright, so here's the back side of the house, out back. The GC wanted to kind of bump these walls further out to kind of make the master bedroom bigger and make the master bathroom bigger. That was going to get a little too expensive, so I didn't necessarily agree with that. But you could even put some kind of like deck out here, or some kind of overhang thing that they could come out onto, but that's kind of getting a little costly, not necessary. You could probably resell the house as is without adding on those things. So trying to keep costs down, we probably wouldn't do much outside, except the roof's going to get replaced and all that wood, the wood siding, all that's rotting. The soffits are falling down right here on this corner. So there's going to be a lot of exterior work that needs done, as well as landscaping to clean up the yard. Alright, so that's kind of a a good look at this house, how outdated it was on the inside. Probably 10 to 15 grand of exterior work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get into the spreadsheet for you in a second here, and I'll start running through the numbers of how we came to our offer price, what we ended up offering, what we thought repairs were going to be, and just kind of breaking down what our profit and all the expenses would look like. So let's go ahead and dive into the Excel sheet. Alright guys, so here is my rehab analysis spreadsheet. I'm going to walk you quickly through the spreadsheet layout before we dive into the numbers. So over here in the first column, we've got column 1, column 2, column 3, and then kind of a little 4th column. So column 1 over here, we've got the purchase box, which is just all your purchase price numbers when you're going to closing. Then we've got the rehab box, we've got holding costs, and then we've got selling costs as well. So when we go to sell the property, you got to think about all that. And then we've got the profit down here. Then these middle 2 boxes, one's like labor and exterior work. And then we've kind of got materials over here for the interior stuff. And then over here on the 4th, we've got mortgage info. And then we kind of were breaking down, some little costs for materials that we were looking up online. So these were kind of just some notes we were making. So starting off with the purchase price box here. The seller is asking $170,000 right now for this property. It's probably worth about $250,000, probably within a year from now when we'd go to sell it, or maybe even in 2 years from now it might be worth $260,000. We were thinking about buying it, fixing it up, and living in it for about a year to let it keep appreciating, potentially get a roommate to help pay some rent to us, and then maybe go to sell it in about a year or 2 from now for a profit. So we have to factor in, all the costs of living in the property in the meantime. But so we've got, this purchase price $170,000, might be worth $250,000, $260,000. So ideally, I look for about $100,000 spread or more. So if it's going to sell for 250, I'd want to get this down to at least 150 to give us $100,000 of room to get all our expenses in, as well as leave us some profit. Now, other people, what they could do to figure how much profit they want on a deal, it's typically 10 to 20% of the resale value. So if I was going to resale it for $250,000, 10% of that would be about $25,000 of profit. 20% would be 50 grand. So somewhere in between there, we'd aim for $25,000 to $50,000 of profit if we're going to be doing a house that's worth $250,000. So that's just kind of give you a rough idea, so that when we look at the profit numbers below in a little bit. So inspections here, $400. This is pretty standard. An appraisal you're gonna have to pay for the bank. That's usually about $400 or $500. Then lender fees. We are gonna be getting a loan, but our lender happened to waive our costs. I'm not sure why. I think the credit score was really good, and they're already getting money on the back end from the loan. So I don't know. For some reason they waived those. Closing costs would be like your title company fees, anything else that has to go on your credits and debits on the closing statement, in addition to the inspection and appraisal. And then you're going to have earnest money that you're going to have to put down as well. So that's just, that just comes out of how much money you have to bring to closing. So when they get you the final number of how much you have to wire in, it's going to be, less whatever you've already submitted to the seller in earnest money. Now, for this, we went ahead and put in a loan amount 147 when we were analyzing a purchase price of 150. So I can go ahead and bump this up. He got a loan where my partner got a loan where he only has to put like 1% down. So if we were going to offer, the $170,000, he'd put about $2,000 down. So then I believe Freddie Mac was going to contribute another 2%. So, another $3,400. So roughly he'd have about $5,000 taken care of for himself. So his loan would probably be about $165,000 at about 4.5% interest rate, and it'd be over 30 years. So this is the little, mortgage box where I've got the payment calculator set up here. So it just calculated a $10,000 mortgage payment for the entire year. So that works out to, about $800 and some dollars per month just for the mortgage payment. And then you've got taxes, insurance, and all that. So moving on down here to the rehab costs. So we've got labor and materials. So again, the labor total right here is from this column. The materials total is from this column. Now, these are just rough estimates. Ideally, you can get a rehab done in this area for about 40 to 50 grand. And we went ahead and kind of went through all these numbers as best as we could. For the time of this video, I'm not going to go through it too in depth, but basically on the inside, we're going to need new drywall. So we've got drywall materials here, picking up mud, the tape, the actual drywall board itself. We would actually hang it ourselves. And then we may have some drywall labor to add in later if we decide to have somebody come finish it, to do all the sanding and all the final work to get it ready to paint. You gotta put up some new doors, maybe some new windows, so just being conservative. Light fixtures, fan fixtures, new hot water heater, new toilets, new sinks, faucets, vanities, all new flooring, so lots of expense here for flooring. And then you got labor to come have people install the flooring. Kitchen, all new appliances, cabinets, countertops, backsplash, garbage disposal. The bathrooms need new vanities, new showers and tubs. You got to tile, probably the flooring, tile, the walls of the shower. And then you got just other fixtures, doorknobs, switches, switch plates, outlet covers, mini blinds. So these are just about 20 grand in materials. And then some of this had labor already factored into it if we're going to be doing it or hiring it. And then for over here on the labor side, there's some other things where we left a lot of these zero because we're going to try to do a lot of it ourselves. But some of the costs we could estimate just based off previous experience and previous quotes we've gotten, what the labor would cost for some different things. So all in all, the big total here that matters is that we're probably going to spend about 40 grand. It doesn't really matter how it breaks down. We know roughly we could get by on a $40,000 budget. We could probably do it a little cheaper than this, but this is a good estimate. So now your holding costs. These are your costs you have when you own the property. So we're going to be making mortgage payments every month. So if we live in it for a year, we're going to make about $10,000 in mortgage payments based on the numbers that we put in over here, our interest rate, how much our loan was over 30 years. Property taxes were about $2,400 for this property. Insurance was about $1,300. Utilities, we factored in a little over $1,100 to $1,200 per month, so about $1,500 for the year. And then, of course, some lawn care. You got to buy, either the gas for the lawnmower, or you got to hire a lawn company to come mow your lawn, and then all your other, landscaping and stuff that you're doing to maintain your lawn throughout the year. All right, and then selling costs, we went ahead and put in a more conservative price of $240, even though comps in a year or two could go up and it could be $250, $260. So then this calculates the commission to the agent. 6% of the sale price goes to the real estate agents. There's going to be a listing agent, probably a buyer agent. So all in all, you're going to pay about 6%. So $14,000 commission. And then if the buyer wants you to pay for their home warranty, you could factor that in. Sometimes the buyers ask you to pay a closing cost for them. And then all of our seller closing costs, we figure roughly 1%, so $2,400. So that's going to come to about $220. $2,700 is what we would net when you subtract out, about $17,000 here in closing costs. So that would be what we'd net on the property, $222. And then you have to subtract out all your holding costs, all your rehab costs, and all your purchase costs. So that's going to give us a net profit down here of negative $4,000. So as you can see, the current asking price that the seller wants is not going to work. And again, this is why I have my $100,000 spread rule. So if we took this down to 100, so that's why I was saying earlier, if I took this down to like 150,000, or even if we have to go down, in this case, since we're giving a sale price of 240, we have to take it down to 140 because I got to get my $100,000 spread in there. It's just my rule of thumb that I found to work. So now the loan probably would be about 135,000 instead of 165,000 since we're coming down 30 grand. So that's going to readjust the mortgage. So now the mortgage goes down a little bit, and then everything else adjusts. So now we've got a profit of about 27,000, which again, I said I want to be somewhere between 10 to 20% profit based on the sale price. So we're a little bit over, 10% there. We have to make about $24,000. That would be 10% of the sale price, and we're at 27. So this is a healthy profit for this type of house and this type of deal. And in order to get that profit, we've got to bring the purchase price down to 140, and that's assuming we can get this sale price. It might go up in a year, so that could even add another 10 grand on. But if we live in the house longer, then our mortgage might eat away some of that appreciation. But that's fine because you're going to have cost of living somewhere, whether you're living in an apartment or you're actually living in the flip that you're doing. So you're going to have a cost of living anyways. So, we could take this out if we wanted to get, an even more higher profit look, because, somebody could be, let's say I didn't have, mortgage payments on this house. Instead, we bought it all cash and we were living in an apartment or something. We'd be paying that apartment every month as a part of our natural cost of living. But in this case, we just included everything in this cost because we're going to be living in this property. So it's an expense that has to be considered. All right, so that wraps this up as far as this column goes. We've gone over the labor, we've gone over the mortgage info. So what we ended up doing is we actually offered, originally we were going to offer 120,000, but that's 50 grand below list price. They probably wouldn't accept that. So we came up to 130. We still knew we had a slim chance of getting that accepted. The realtor was kind of being a stickler about not wanting to budge from 170, but unfortunately, this house really wasn't worth 170 when you consider the amount of rehab it's going to take to update it to a modern house. This house was built a long time ago. They've never done any updates to it. It's been maintained well, but just for somebody coming in that's trying to build some equity in the house, or like in our case, trying to be flippers and flip the house for profit, it just isn't going to work at 170. We're going to realize potentially a net loss on the deal instead of a profit. So we offered 130. Seller rejected it. And it wasn't so much the price. Of course, they said the price was too low for them, but primarily they rejected it because of the appraisal. They didn't think it's going to pass appraisal for conventional financing. They wanted us to go out and get some kind of an investment loan or buy it all cash. So we ended up having to move on from this property for now. If it sits a while, it's been on the market about 100 days. So, we'll let it sit a couple more months. Maybe they'll get desperate, where eventually they'll come back to us. They'll notify our agent, hey, is your buyer still interested in offering? We've decided to drop our price more, or we've decided to try, letting the loan process go through. I don't know why they didn't just let us try it. They're trying to speculate what they think the appraiser's going to do when they could have let us, go through with it. And if the appraiser would have rejected it, then, they would have lost like 10 days, maybe 15 days on market, depending on how quickly the appraiser could get out to the property to, inspect the property for the bank, so that we would have tied up the property with them maybe a couple weeks before the appraisal comes in, and then we find out, okay, it did fail appraisal. They won't let financing go until the siding's fixed. So all the seller would have to do then is just have somebody come out, fix the siding, and then they could allow someone to buy it with conventional financing. But for some reason they're not fixing it themselves. You're waiting for a cash investor buyer to come along. So in the meantime, that property is going to sit a while. They've kind of got unrealistic expectations, in my opinion. So we'll let it sit. We're going to move on, look for more deals. So go ahead and stay tuned for future updates of other properties we're looking at. I'll go over some other analysis videos like this one of other properties that we walk through, and show you the photos, and if we take videos or whatever, I'll make a little video tour as well. Thanks so much for watching today's video. If you want to learn more about real estate investing, you can either subscribe to the channel, visit my blog under30wealth.com and read a bunch of my articles. They're free. Or you can join my course that I've got on real estate investing. Just go to under30wealth.com/freedom, and it'll teach you how to buy your first deal, start building passive income, and seek financial freedom from your 9-to-5 job. Take care.